Hey guys, on today's episode Beyond the Chair with Ahmad, naturopathic doctor. So Ahmad, you gotta tell us a lot about health.
Inshallah.
And I'm healthy and I work out a lot, but it's not just that. It's a lot of things behind it.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us about health?
Absolutely. So, first off, you told me that you're healthy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what does that mean to you? What do you mean you're healthy? When you say you're healthy, why do you assume that you're healthy?
So
Is it because you see labs that are in normal ranges? Is it because you work out or you eat healthy? Tell me.
So me, I'm first against medicine.
Okay.
Second, I eat like great food.
Okay.
All of it healthy. I don't eat bread. I eat bread but light.
Okay.
And I want to know and teach people how not to do 1, 2, 3. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. Okay. So first off, when you're essentially asking me what does it mean to be healthy?
Yes.
Okay. So
Is it just like going to the gym? Is it just to eat good?
it's multifactorial. It's many
Okay.
things. It's not just one thing. It's really a combination, right? Genetics play a huge role, but primarily what you do is going to affect your health. So first off, when you say you're healthy, not you specifically, but anybody, you want to look at 3 different realms of health. You want to look at their physical health, you want to look at their spiritual health, and you want to look at their mental health, right? So that's one aspect of health, right? It's like, what does it mean to be healthy? Are you physically healthy? Are you mentally healthy? Are you spiritually healthy? But really, it's a combination of all. But if really nowadays, and somebody's asking what does it mean to be healthy, they're talking about their physical health primarily, right?
Okay.
Now, how do you be physically healthy? It's not just, so here's the thing, a lot of people think that because they're alive and they're surviving, they're healthy. Mm-hmm. So when they go to their doctor and they're taking a medication, they're taking, maybe even 3 or 4 medications, depending on their age, depending on their medical history, taking 3 to 4 medications, and they're alive, now they're healthy. Okay, well, if you're on 3 or 4 medications that are really just suppressing your symptoms, sometimes they're countering a problem, but not addressing what caused that problem, then are they truly healthy?
So it's like masking the pain, not healing the root cause.
Absolutely. Exactly. Now, how do you be healthy? Physically first, right?
Yeah.
And when you're healthy physically, really the aspects of health address every realm. It's not just physical health. So I actually came up with the pillars of health, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you said diet and you said exercise. But a lot of people, for example, I was with somebody last night. And alhamdulillah, they're a pretty healthy individual. They're very well known around the world. But I asked him one question. He said he had extreme muscle pain and headaches. And I had to take care of him. It was after the lecture at the mosque. Hajj, how much do you drink? Like, how much water do you drink? He says, 1 bottle of water. Hajj. Like, that's, so what did he do? Before I even met him and helped him out, what did he do? He took an Advil for his headache. Hajj, how much water do you drink? 1 bottle of water. Hajj, you're drinking 16 ounces. Okay, fine. How much do you weigh? I weigh, I think he said 70 something kilograms. So, I had to do the math, but it was like 157 pounds. Hajj, you have to be drinking half of your body weight in ounces, right? So what happens within his scenario, for example, and this is just one aspect of health, right? Hydration. In his case, when you're dehydrated, think about it as a sponge, right? So if you're going to wash dishes, the sponge before it has water is what? It's very hard, right? It's very hard. It's not fluid. You can't use it to scrub down. But once you put water into it, it becomes moldable, it becomes flexible. You're able to use it, right? It's the same thing with your muscles. It's the same thing with essentially every process in your body requires hydration. So you have 2 muscles, right? One on the right, one on the left side, called trapezius muscles. And these muscles run from essentially your shoulder to lower back to the back of your head. Okay? Now, when you're dehydrated, again, think about the sponge. It becomes hard.
Right.
It's not fluid. And so then it starts to compress on these nerves. And it leads to something called a tension headache. Right. So Hajj, okay, so what would we do? We did some muscle work, of course. But obviously the muscle work is going to help. It's going to help loosen up the muscles. But you need to be drinking a minimum half your body weight in ounces every single day. Now, to go even in more depth and just that one aspect of health, which is hydration, one aspect, there's multiple. a lot of times you see people do what? Where do they get their water from? They get it from plastic water bottles. Now read that plastic water bottle. What does it say? It says it's filtered water, not spring water. Most of the time it's purified filtered water. Now what does that mean? It means that they extracted all the electrolytes from that water. That means it's purely H2O. Now in nature, where does the water come from, right? When a water, or for example, when a glacier melts, it goes down a mountain, it hits the rocks, right? And then it picks up the electrolytes from the rocks. So when you're drinking that water, it has magnesium, it has calcium, it might have other minerals, phosphorus potentially, and now you have a well-balanced water. That what happens is, when the water enters the body, it has to go into the cell for it to actually be hydrating, right? I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the concept of osmosis.
Yes.
Exactly. So
But just explain for our viewers, it's about water and salt levels.
it goes from a high concentration to a low concentration, right? So it wants to balance itself out. Now, when you're drinking pure H2O without electrolytes, well, now the electrolytes have to leave your cells to now balance the water outside of the cells. So you're losing your hydration, right? So that's one aspect of health, okay? Now we can go down a whole rabbit hole into diet.
Before you continue, is that the same for like, I used to say this, I don't drink water, most of us don't. Like we'll drink liquids and fluids, but it's not actually water, right?
Exactly.
Like soda, Pepsi,
Coffee, which by the way dehydrates you even more.
Now that was my question. Yeah. Is the dehydration because of the osmosis, or is the dehydration because now your body has to work extra hard to get rid of these toxins and whatever else you put in it, that it's using up whatever water supply it's got for that process?
So with coffee specifically, the caffeine actually acts as a diuretic.
Okay.
So not only does it extract the nutrient or the minerals, but it causes your motility to increase and it shoots it out. You don't absorb it. It just essentially shoots it down the other end. Mm-hmm. So that's one aspect of coffee. Now, when you're talking about toxins, there's how do we detoxify, right? We detoxify, so toxins, we remove toxins from our body through what? Through urine, through sweat, through poop, right? And through exhaling.
Right, oxygen.
Yeah, when you're breathing out, it's CO2, exactly. Yeah. So what do those three processes, the first three that I mentioned, require? If you don't have enough water, what happens? You're constipated. Okay. If you're sweating, let's say you go to a sauna, you want to detoxify, you're sweating out what? Water, right? You need that water. Beautiful. I'll take it out. Amazing. I love it. Thank you. You're removing water through the sauna, right? So you're becoming more dehydrated. So if you're not replenishing that, now you're more dehydrated and everything cannot function the way it's supposed to. Obviously, water is required for almost every process in the body. And the third way was peeing. If you're not drinking water, how can you pee out your toxins? And then you're straining your kidneys. So water is crucial, very, very crucial for your health. Now that's one aspect. Now we could go into diet, we can go into exercise, and actually let's touch on exercise.
I
go ahead.
Ask you about that.
What kind
so
of
how people to make like a good diet, and it's not gonna affect them, and it's gonna help them.
Okay. So some people think most people think there's one diet for everybody. Now, there is generally, the Mediterranean diet is considered by science, scientific research has shown that it's the most beneficial in the world. Why? It's anti-inflammatory, it's nutrient rich, and it's got a lot of antioxidants, right? Fibers, it's essentially got everything you need to be healthy.
So, I don't want to cut you off.
No, you're
But a lot of people, they saying, you gotta eat a lot. Let's say I want to work out, I want to build muscles, right? They told me you gotta eat a lot. Is that gonna be healthy or it's not healthy?
It depends on what you're eating. So
let's say meat every day. Is that healthy?
So again, there's not one diet for anything. So if somebody, for example, has chronic kidney disease and their kidneys are strained, they should not be eating that much protein because it's going to further strain their kidneys.
Okay.
Right? Now that's not the majority of people. And on the flip side, sometimes, if somebody has a specific disease, they might want to actually stay away from meat for a short period of time. Okay? But for the majority of the people, a well-balanced diet is the correct way to eat, right? And that is the Mediterranean diet. Now, when you say how much, a lot of people look at it like as calorie in, calorie out. This is how I lose weight and this is how I gain weight. They think it's a very simple mathematic equation, but it's really not. For example, let's say all you did was eat rice, right? That's all you ate. You ate 2,000 calories of just raz. what nutrients, what vitamins and minerals are you actually getting from that? Right? We require vitamin B12 to detoxify for our stress responses. We require vitamin D for our immune health. We require vitamin A for our eye health. We require magnesium for stress responses as well. Magnesium, by the way, is responsible for over 300 different functions in the body. Right? SubhanAllah, insane. So when you're eating, you have to choose highly nutrient dense foods. So you can't decide, okay, you know what, I only want 2,000 calories, but I'm going to choose to eat 2,000 calories of pizza because that 2,000 calories of pizza is not going to have any nutrients. So essentially, you're becoming more unhealthy. You're going to gain weight, and you might actually see some results short term, but long term, you're going to run out of nutrients. Your nutrient supply is going to deplete.
Speaking of bad foods, there's a saying from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that if a human were to consume only dates and milk, that they will have all the nutrients to be as strong as any other human being. You mentioned magnesium. Now, is there,
right?
Because dates tend to have like magnesium, what is it, iron, all the stuff that we actually need, and right, and fiber, and in a very small, like, you know, some foods, like you're saying, I have to eat X amount of proteins or whatever, but I have to eat a full meal to get that, and then you've got dates, right? My question to you, just because you are in the natural remedy process, a lot of times people will advertise for us like bananas are healthy, right? When bananas naturally in the wildlife shouldn't even be edible, right? They have to undergo a process for us to be able to consume them. But do you think that certain type of foods are pushed and marketed to be healthier just as a, you know, advertising or a marketing strategy, but they don't really do it? Talk to us, like, I don't know, let me try and rephrase that question. So like Gatorade, for example, because you mentioned water, right? So Gatorade runs on electrolytes.
Exactly.
Right, but it doesn't tell me what else is in there, right? So what would you recommend if you were to make some recommendations that could be universal, or, you know, obviously consult a doctor and stuff,
In regard to hydration.
Hydration and a healthy, balanced diet. Things that your body actually needs.
It's amazing
like
question. But we got you here. We need you to give a lot of like benefit.
Absolutely.
The people watch this podcast.
Okay, so let's go to the first part of that question, is hydration. So you asked me earlier that we kind of cut you off, is what should you drink? Okay, so you should be drinking spring water, but now in what container? Right. Majority is in plastic water bottles. Now, what does plastic do? Not only does it actually affect your cardiovascular system negatively, but it also is not considered as endocrine disruptors, meaning it messes with your hormones. Okay, sometimes they're estrogenic, so turning males to females. Like not literally, but exactly. They're now changing the hormonal balance in a male to become more female-like. Okay, now that's what. So what do? You choose either stainless steel or glass. Now I talked to you guys.
So the plastic.
Cut it out. Terrible.
Also, it's bad for, it's not recyclable.
You guys hear?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, secondly, I talked about electrolytes, right? What do? Do you actually go buy electrolytes? You absolutely can. There are some great electrolyte products on the market, but subhanAllah, all you got to do is get a little pinch of salt and throw it in your water. And now you got a very bad, and I choose either Himalayan, but if you're going to get Himalayan, you have to choose a very high quality source of Himalayan salt or Celtic sea salt.
Which one you get?
Celtic sea salt. Those are usually better quality, the sourcing, because there's some controversy about the sourcing of Himalayan pink salt. Yeah. Sometimes,
watch the documentary.
Yeah, exactly. You've probably heard. Yeah.
So sometimes color dye and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's not
exactly.
When I ask you about the meat, because we have, I don't know which prophet said about, وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا بُطُونَكُمْ لُحُومًا لِلْحَيْوَانَاتِ.
Imam Ali, do not make your stomachs the cemetery of animals. Like, don't overconsume.
Don't overconsume.
Yeah.
Why? Because they saying about the meat, your stomach adjust it in 1 week. 1 meal of meat, your stomach gonna adjust it in 1 week. So imagine we eat it every day. How bad that is. But a lot of people, that's why I get confused. I want to ask you that question.
I'll answer. It's always simple, right? It always go back to balance. Right? So now you see a lot of social media accounts, they're on these extreme ends. It's either you go vegan or you go carnivore diet.
One or the other.
But then what happens? It's never sustainable. I mean, look at some of the most prominent carnivore diet icons in the country right now. have now slowly started to say, you know what, now I'm going to include fruit. Now I'm going to include a little bit of this. And you know what, maybe a little bit of vegetable too.
So you're just going back to normal.
Just go back to balance. That's always going to be the answer. The only time you go to an extreme end is if there's a specific medical condition that indicates it. So again, for example, if you eat too much meat, it's acidic, right? And it also has a lot of protein that your kidneys have to filter. So if you have a chronic kidney disease, you want to start to go towards this side temporarily until you get it back into check, then you go back to balance.
Man, it's so easy, bro.
It really is. Like,
It's so easy.
it really
You know
is.
why I told you I'm healthy? So I went to the doctor 3 months ago. I did my blood test. I haven't did blood test, I think 5 years. I don't like to go to the doctor.
Why didn't you want to get blood tests though?
I just,
Way Rockies, we don't like to know if something's wrong. If we're gonna go, we just want to go. I swear, that's the truth.
me, I don't like to go to a doctor.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? Let me go get blood test. I tried the blood test. Man, it comes out pre-diabetic, high cholesterol, have kidney stone.
This actually came out in your report.
Yes. So I looked 3 months ago.
Okay.
So I looked at it. You know what? It's easy. I can finish it. Like I can fix it.
Yeah.
I change whole my diet. No sugar, like zero sugar, not even fruit. I eat two pieces of fruit every day. I stopped it. People look at me, even my client, I don't eat that, I don't eat that. They told me crazy. Bro, I gotta fix this. It's too easy and I can do it.
You see what you did there? When you were at a place in which you had some sort of medical condition, you had to go slightly towards an extreme. Once you got back into balance, you go back to balance. That's exactly how you do it.
So what I did, and I went to the doctor, you're supposed to do it every 6 months. So I did it after 3 months.
Yeah.
I went back and I did the blood test. He looked at it, he said, what did you do? I told him, why? Is it bad? Tell me. He said, no, for real, what did you do? Just I changed my diet and I went hard at the gym and I need to fix my health.
Food is
I
medicine.
felt great. He told me, bro, your
Cholesterol in the bag.
everything.
You're not pre-diabetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how easy it is. But I can't tell people you're a doctor. When you tell them, they're gonna understand it more. Oh, you know what?
I wanted to ask just on two things. So you mentioned salt. We eat a lot of food out in Dearborn. Like we have, alhamdulillah, so many different restaurants. They tend to use MSG in the food industry.
Yeah.
So talk to us about MSG, because some folks will be like, oh, it makes everything taste good. It's just another version of salt. Like, what does it actually do to your body?
MSGs. I don't know. I'm not too in depth with MSGs, but what I do know is this: couple things. What does it stand for? Monosodium glutamate. Glutamate is an amino acid that actually helps to increase your nerve. So we have something called GABA, right? GABA is an inhibitory neuron. So people with extreme anxiety, right? They tend to have too little GABA, where essentially their nervous system is on go, 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 right? So there's medications and there's herbs that actually start to slow that down through the GABA receptors. Now, glutamate has some research has shown that it actually starts to increase that nervous system, in which it increases the response and the firing of the neurons. And so now you're always on go, 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 and you're anxious, right? That's one aspect of monosodium glutamate. Now, the other thing I want to mention that's not specific to MSGs is the FDA, and a lot of people misunderstand what it means as generally recognized as safe. What does that actually mean? Generally recognized as safe, right, which you'll see on a lot of different, food colorings, for example, which we know are bad for us. It says that if you consume this amount of whatever it may be, right,
It's safe.
it's safe, but specific to the serving size. So, a bottle of juice, let's just say it's a synthetic juice that has food coloring. If it has red 40 at this amount, it generally recognized as safe if you drink 4 ounces of this. Now, who's drinking 4 ounces of that? You're knocking that whole entire thing now.
Yeah.
But because the FDA said it's generally recognized as safe, the mass is going to be like, oh no, it's safe. There's nothing bad with it.
Right.
But you got to remember.
I'll also say, if there's one thing I've known about him my whole life, is that he lives a food coloring free life.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
Everything that I've ever brought to him to snack on, first thing he looks, he grabs it, he goes, red dye 40. No, it's not for me.
Some of the red dyes
I have a
actually.
question for you.
Yeah.
By the way, Nabeel, he's digital marketing, like
I'm a digital marketing and user acquisition specialist.
Yeah. User.
amazing. I'm not saying in front of him. Like I seen his work, crazy. What made you go to that and you leave the photography and you want to do marketing?
So you see, actually, I never picked up the camera myself. Now, my interest in digital marketing started back when I was actually in high school. You see, I had very few subjects I was interested in. And you see, you got math, you got the sciences, you got the histories, and I did fairly like U.S. history a lot. But when
Very short, 200 years only, but yeah.
Actually, no, all history. He's a big fanatic on history.
yeah, I'm a huge fanatic.
Yeah, he loves
Britain,
history.
buddy. We got way more. We'll
I'm
continue.
someone who believes that if you know the history, then you can
Yes.
kind of path out your future the right
Exactly.
way.
If
learn
you
from
know
others'
where you come
mistakes.
from, yeah.
But you see, when I finally switched my high school, as my sophomore year of high school, I actually took randomly an elective called marketing management, right? And for the first time ever, I actually clicked in my mind that, hey, I really like this subject because it has a lot of practical use instantly. You know what I mean? So I went through all of high school, really taking every business class I could, right? And then, of course, coming from a Middle Eastern family, when you're going into college, what are like the perfect three that they love to push you towards is, you know, you're a lawyer, you're in the medical field, or you're an engineer, right? And my mom used to generally push me towards engineering because her oldest brother, Nabil, is an engineer. Right? So what I used to do actually was, because I knew I had a passion for marketing, I used to, during the day, go to engineering classes that I had zero passion for and had not a care in the world for, right? But then at night, after studying or doing whatever homework I had to give into, I would allocate about 2-3 hours at night to certain skills I needed: the web design, the ad running, the email campaign running, you know what I mean? And just really reading a lot of books that teach you the psychology behind marketing, right? Show you how do you, the science behind marketing, you know, because there's a lot of things in marketing that people don't understand.
They think it's just pick a
content.
couple
It's
of
just
hashtags,
content. Yeah,
put it
it's
out
just
there. And it's
content.
not, I'll tell you, I tried that this month. It's not working, buddy.
you know,
It's not working at all.
Yes.
how I met Nabil?
Tell me.
So I invited Shatilla here, and I told them like we're gonna do a podcast. So that day, Nasser, I love you. Nasser, he doesn't record females, which I respect him and I love him so much. Amazing guy. By the way, shout out to Nasser for doing an amazing video for me. So I talked to the girls and I called Nasser. Hey Nasser, we have a podcast today, but it's gonna be females. He said no.
By the way, it's for religious reasons. He's he's practicing. It's not that he's got anything against women. I just gotta let it be known, but I gotta let it be known.
So the girls, they was telling me, oh, you know what, we have a guy, Nabil. But I told them, bro, I don't know Nabil. Like, I love this guy, how he does my podcast. And then I got to the point, you know what, I gotta call Nabil. I have no choice. So I called the guy. He came, him and his respectfully, like, amazing guy. And he sit behind the cameras and he adjust, do all that. And then when we didn't finish the podcast, he looked to my Instagram. He said, Teef, you gotta do 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna do it for you. What are you gonna do? Don't worry, I'm gonna fix it. And he sent me next day, like, he set up like how you put YouTube, everything organized. Nabil, how much you charge me? He said, I'm not gonna take. Bro, what do you mean you're not gonna take? I will never take it. So I was telling Dr. Ahmad, I gotta bring another guy with you. He said, oh, you know what, Nabil? You know what? Yes, I need to get this guy. I called Nabil, you gotta come here. We really appreciate you for coming.
From behind the camera to front of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Ahmad, I have really good question for you.
Let's go.
And I want everybody knows about it. A lot of doctors, like let's say one, he go for bone doctor, orthopedics, one doctor for heart, whatever it is. And all these doctors, they give medicine, right? What made you to be naturopathic? Why you decide and you want to do that? I want to ask you that question because me personally, I hate medicine. I don't care what kind of sickness I have, I will never take medicine. Let me finish.
Yeah, okay.
So, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, وَخَلَقْنَا لِكُلِّ دَاء دَوَاء. What it means, dawa, it's not the chemical we take from these pills, all the, like anything happen with you, oh, the doctor gonna give you, take this pills, take this pills, take this, but this pill is gonna fix one thing, but it's gonna affect a lot of things in your body, which it happened to me before.
Yeah.
So all I do, I go on, me personally, like I'm I'm
You
really
love to learn.
crazy.
I know you love
Yes.
to learn, yeah.
I go on Google, what I have to do with this, what kind of food I'm gonna take. But you came up with insane idea, which naturopathic medicine, whatever you do.
So I didn't come up with the idea, but it was
But what
when I
made you?
decided to bring it back to this
So
community.
what made you not to do that and you want to do that?
Well, because earlier, in the first question you asked me was, what does it mean to be healthy?
Yes.
Are you trying to survive or are you trying to be healthy?
I try to be healthy.
Exactly. Do you want to get to a point in which you have to rely on 3 or 4 medications to keep you alive? Right? Or do you want to rely on feeling great all the time based on how you exercise, based on what you eat, based on what you drink, based on your stress, based on your environment? Like this is true health. This is what I mean by this is true health, right? True health doesn't come from survival. It comes from feeling great. And with that, it doesn't just affect your physical health. It also, even science now supports that the digestion directly affects your mental health.
Imam Ali says a third of all your illnesses start in your gut.
SubhanAllah, exactly. And now science is starting to finally prove it, right? And so it's how do you want to live? Do you want to rely on a man-made, like you said, with a bunch of side effects, medication to survive? Or do you want to rely on the things that we were given to be healthy? Things that we have our own physical. You know what? Here, let me tell you this. Imam al-Mahdi, right? When he comes, is he going to choose the people who are essentially, I mean, not to talk down on people, but those who are obese, those who have no drive, those who are not motivated, those who stay on their Instagram all day, those who...
Rasulullah says a strong believer is more beloved to God than a weak believer. So you're bang on the money there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Or is he going to choose those who are mentally, physically, and spiritually strong, right? Who is he going to choose? Like, who's going to be able... So the goal, right? The goal is, why do you want to be healthy? Why do I want people to be healthy, right? To live a life with purpose. And what does that mean, right? As Muslims, we're required to bring peace. That's what we want to do. That is our primary goal, is to bring peace. Now, unfortunately, the most powerful entities in the world are using their power for the wrong reasons. So we need to now strengthen ourselves, and it starts within our own community, 100%. To strengthen ourselves so that now we can enforce the power to bring peace. Yeah. Now, you can't do that if you're weak.
And when you say that, like, for example, people take what you just said out of context and be like, oh, Muslims are going to get radical. No, like,
it's peace.
It's peace. But for example, there's a lot of work that we have to do, we've been instructed to do as Muslims, which I can't do if I'm not healthy, right? For example, you know, we hear about the Imams, we hear about the Prophet, that they would carry sacks and grains of rice on their back and deliver it to the needy people, because obviously in those days, they didn't have the mode of transportations that we have now. But again, I'm thinking like, for that work, you need to be healthy. If you're trying to be a community leader, you mentioned when you said healthy, there are 3 realms: spiritual, right, which is what our scholars do for us. Health, physical, the gym does that for us, right? Mental, this requires a whole lot of work in our community, because you need to be mentally stable. And when we read the Quran, there's a lot of it. For example, even the Prophet ﷺ, right? It says, وَلَا يَحْزُنْكَ قَوْلَهُمْ فَإِنَّا نَعْلَمُ مَا يَسِرُّونَ وَمَا يَعْلُنُونَ, right? So do not be saddened by what they say. Like, Allah's addressing his mental health, right? Don't let it depress you. Don't be sad. We already know what they say and what they don't say. So it's very important that we as Muslims be healthy. I strongly support that. Not because I know some people, when they hear that as a Muslim, I got to do something, I don't know why, like they just think of the war in the Middle East. But we as Muslims, I like to think wherever we should go in the world, we're supposed to serve purpose there, right? So in America, I believe, and we've spoken about this at length, and alhamdulillah, we're doing a lot of work in that respect. And it is tiring work. I need to be healthy, right? If I'm going to feed poor people, if I'm going to go and work I took a couple of friends of mine, I always say I'm always in the hood, you know. But I grew up in the hood, you know what I mean? So I feel like God had made me grow up there so that I can feel, you know, have empathy, right? So that for me is my project for life, right? To go into underprivileged areas and introduce to them the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam Allah, in the hopes that they will make them realize that you don't need money for life, right? You just need dignity, you need purpose. But even when we go there, for example, I took one of my friends there one time and he turned around, he's like, where's the guns? I said, why do we need guns when we're doing God's work? He said, we're in the hood. What if we get into a fight? I said, we're going to scrap it out. He said, have you seen me? Like, I'm not in shape. And I said to him, that's why you need to be a healthy Muslim, because you can't be doing this work.
And to another point, you know, Islam aside, I mean, as a man, do you not need to protect your family?
100%.
Right? Do you not need to provide for your family?
Yes. Yes.
You need to be strong and healthy to do so.
And
I have a question for you.
sorry, Hatuf, just one last point. With what we were talking about in general in health and being the Shahr of Ramadan, detox and all, how can we maximize our health benefits in this holy month? Because sometimes what happens is not sometimes, most of the times for Arabs, we fast all day, alhamdulillah. But as soon as it's adhan time, man, we're eating from Maghrib till Fajr, right? Desserts, drinks, all the bad stuff.
What a beautiful question. But I'm going to go into a little bit more depth than just the diet. When we're fasting, right, like, what are we fasting from? People think it's just from water and food, but really it's everything is an essence of energy, right? What we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we feel, right? Every sense, this is how we perceive energies, this is how we absorb them. So what you're putting into your mouth, you need to be careful. Not just from, sunrise to sunset, but even afterwards. What you listen to, what you see, you need to detoxify from these things that are bringing us bad energies, right? Now, to get into specifics as to diet, you're right. People will have iftar, and what do they eat? They'll have their iftar. They'll probably, the first thing they eat is bread, which, by the way, is carbohydrate, which is going to skyrocket your blood sugar levels. Yeah. And then they eat a little bit of meat, then, maybe some salata, which is great, fantastic. First thing they should be eating is a salata, the salad. Why? Because it's fibrous and it's going to slowly stabilize blood sugar levels for the next thing that you eat. Okay?
Don't you have to eat dates?
Yeah. So, oh my God, great question. You're right. The first thing you should do, you're right. Absolutely.
Dates,
The first thing you should
go pray.
is date and a little bit of water, go pray. Now, there is a good friend of mine who actually just released, you guys know that Instagram account, History Photographed?
Yeah.
So them and Earthpix. Earthpix has 24 million followers. And History Photographed has like 3 or 4 million. They just got the Ramadan guide posted on their account. SubhanAllah. Amazing. They just exposed 27 million people to this Ramadan guide. And what are they saying? These are Stanford graduates, by the way, who use science to explain how the Prophet was right when he said to you to drink a little bit of water, eat a date, and go pray. Why? What does it do? Well, for one, like you said earlier, the date has the fibers, right? So it's going to slowly stabilize blood sugars for the next thing you eat. Secondly, it's going to allow the stomach to expand slightly. Then you go pray, right? You get your digestive secretions going so that when you're finally going to eat, now you have the hydrochloric acid, the pancreatic enzymes, everything to break down the food and have a very healthy and smooth digestion process. So subhanAllah, you're right. And I apologize for not bringing that up. You're 100% right. That is the best thing to do, and science proves that.
See, because I I read a lot about this stuff. They saying before you want to eat, you gotta eat some fruit.
Yeah.
Before you eat.
For your glucose levels to get.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
So before you eat, you gotta, let's say,
the date.
Like just a
eat
regular
dates.
The date, not any fruit.
That's what I follow. Dr.
Batka, I think is.
Daka.
Batka, I think is. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
So that's why he's a nutrition doctor.
I probably wouldn't say any fruit because there's something called the glycemic index. So
like orange, he said.
Oh, okay.
Orange, dates, and what's the name? The black little.
Black seed or raisins, colors.
No, so raisins, I doubt it.
Just
I don't know, Allah. Like little black.
We don't have it in Dearborn, so we're not gonna.
We do.
So the thing is, you want to look for something that's high in fiber because so there's something called the glycemic index, in which there are certain foods that increase blood sugar levels way faster than other foods.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want the foods that slowly increase, and what does that? It's the fibers in it. Right. Primarily. So I think dates are the best way to do that.
100%.
SubhanAllah, you're right?
Even say Maryam al-Adra. She was eating just bread and dates.
When she was going to give birth, yeah. There's actually an extensive study on that dates help with stopping excessive bleeding after child delivery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like naturally.
So I have a question for you personally. What's one thing natural remedy you personally use every day?
Right now, the only thing I take every day is my liver and bone marrow. And I also have a little bit of my Shifa Complete, which has the liver, bone marrow, heart, and kidney. Now, why? These are whole foods. Now, I'm not a big fan of supplementing of non-whole foods. So, for example, extracts or nutraceuticals that are isolated. Right, that means for example, something that they took out of something. Right, I'm more about eating the entire food or consuming the entire herb. Right, I don't like the idea of just. There's times where I use it, right, but I'm more so for using the whole food. Now, liver is one of the top 5, if not the top 1, most nutrient dense food in the entire world. Okay, in fact, it's actually the best remedy there is for anemia, because anemia has 3 types, main types: B12 deficiency, folate deficiency, and iron deficiency. And subhanAllah, what does the liver do? It apply all 3 of those in high amounts. And not only does it have those in high amounts, the iron is called heme iron. Okay, now I don't know if you guys know the difference between non-heme and heme iron, but the body chooses to absorb heme iron. Why? Because the non-heme iron can oxidize and rust in the body, and so the body's like, hey, like, we got to limit how much we have of this. Now, the heme iron does not do that. It's a much more stable form, so the body can take it in, and so your iron levels start to build much quicker and much faster.
So in Iraq, the farmer's breakfast consists of raw liver. Actually, we eat this back home.
Ideal.
You get liver and just cut it up. It's not uncooked and just.
Absolutely. So, and back home, right, in Lebanon and Iraq and wherever, and back in the Middle East, this is a part of our cultural, it's a part of our diet. We consume this. Exactly.
They live to 70, 80, and they're still out in the farm working.
Exactly. I remember waking up, when I went and visited Lebanon in 2023, 6 a.m., they would go hunt the birds, they would eat the birds, and they would get raw liver, put some lemon, some salt, and this is your breakfast. You know how great I felt? Amazing. It was fantastic.
So you whatever you said about the vitamin, is it any vitamin is good? Because a lot of them, I don't know. I like to take I like to take vitamin, but not every day. Let's say I'm short on vitamin D, which everyone in Michigan,
most people are, absolutely.
Right? But I don't like to take it every day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to ask you if that one is going to affect me if I take it every day.
Not negatively. It depends on your levels. So, like, there are people who are super deficient, right? And so, for example, vitamin D, they take the supplement because we have no sun.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, also in our community, we have a lot of hajabin, people who wear scarves. And so even though they are in the summer, they're not exposed to that sun. And so they do need to supplement, right? Now, it depends on the quality of the supplement that they're getting. So a lot of people just tend to get this vitamin D from their doctor, the 50,000 IUs. Most people, if you ask them what vitamin D are you taking, oh, my doctor prescribed it because insurance is paying for it, the lab made it, it's 50,000 IU of vitamin D. Now, vitamin A, D, E, and K are fat-soluble vitamins. That means they require the lipase and bile to break it down and absorb it. 50,000 IU is a lot. Now, when you do it, then they're supposed to take it once a week. Now, if you look at their labs, I have a lot of clients who come in, you look at their labs, you're like, you've been on 50,000 IUs of vitamin D for the last 7 years and you're still deficient. What's going on here? You know, sometimes they're not taking it, but sometimes they're taking it consistently, but they have trouble digesting their fats. Now, when you give them 50,000 IU of that fat-soluble vitamin, they cannot absorb all of it. So that's when I say, let's switch you to a lower dose and take it daily so that the body can actually absorb all of that vitamin D versus just a portion of that 50,000. Make sense?
Yes.
Man, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But that's the reason, like, I want to see these, because a lot of people, oh, take that vitamin, take that. Bro, I'm not taking any vitamin. Like, if I know I'm short on vitamin D, I'm going to take it once a week, or I usually take it twice a month.
That's the goal.
I take it twice a month.
Yeah, which one though?
The vitamin D.
The 50,000, do you know?
No.
Oh, okay, just a smaller dose.
Yeah.
So if you're deficient, no, I would say take it more often. But another thing to the vitamin D is vitamin D and vitamin K2 work synergistically. Yani they work good together. So the vitamin D will help with calcium absorption, but the vitamin K will send it to the right places, which is the bone.
Okay.
So you have a lot of people with heart problems, right? And they're taking vitamin D, but they're not taking the K2. So what happens? The calcium is being absorbed, but it's not being shuttled to the bone. It's now traveling through the cardiovascular system and calcification can occur. So you want to make sure you're doing it in the right way.
Do you know which best vitamin D people they can get, or I can get?
I always recommend, well, first I recommend sunlight. First, I'm going to recommend sunlight.
Okay.
Now, if you're going to supplement, then Thorne, Thorne, has a vitamin D plus K2. that I really like a lot, and it's a very high quality brand. That's the one I recommend.
Nice. You mentioned something earlier about isolated.
Yeah.
First of all, tell me your reason why you don't like it, and then I'm going to tell you what I've heard about it and maybe see if they align.
So for example, like caffeine, right? When you find caffeine in green tea, or I'll give you two examples actually. First to caffeine, then we're going to talk about vitamin C. Now, caffeine, when you're consuming in green tea now also has something called L-theanine, right? So now it balances the negative aspects of the caffeine. So subhanAllah, Allah created something in a whole form in which it complements each other. When you start trying to extract, you're trying to extract for a specific benefit without realizing that the other things that are complementing it are also helping your body to deal with that one constituent, right? Now the second thing is vitamin C. So now when people say, what is vitamin C? They say it's ascorbic acid, right? Ascorbic acid is vitamin C now to people, apparently. Now, when they do further research, you realize that vitamin C actually in the whole form has different factors. It has something called a P factor, an F factor, and maybe a couple other factors I can't remember off the top of my head, but that complement the absorption and utilization of that vitamin C. So now when people take just ascorbic acid, they get what? They get bloated. They get bloated.
Yeah.
But when you take it in a whole form, they no longer have that issue.
Correct.
So this is why I'm starting to push more towards the whole form of things.
I'm so glad you said that, because I argue this with my friends, and that's why I said I want to hear what you got to say first before I say what I got to say. It's the exact same thing, right? I had this conversation with Dr. Muhammad Radawi from Florida. He was in New York, is where he did his residency. And he was telling me the same thing, exactly the same thing, that he was doing a study on the negatives of isolating. Because he was reading an ayah in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَخَلَقْنَا, and we created everything balanced. So his idea was, if Allah made everything balanced and I'm taking it, why do I have side effects? That means something is lacking. So he's been doing this, I don't know if he's still doing it, but the conversation is probably 10 years old now. But he says exactly that sometimes when you just take the supplement, you're not taking what Allah created with that supplement in order for your body to work properly, right? He was giving an example like, you've got your engine, you put grade 87, 91, and 93, right? He says, but why are you putting a different grade in? Because there's lesser percentage of ethanol in each, right? Which is in gas. But he's saying at the same time, if there's too much or too little, it's going to affect how your combustion is in your engine. He says the same thing, your heart, your body is an engine. So depending what you put in it, if something is lacking or too much of the other thing is, it might create problems. So with that being said, do you recommend or do you know of anything? I don't know, I mean, your brand I just came across in this conversation, but I'm not the most well-informed person. So health-wise, I'm very unhealthy. I'll say I don't need to see a doctor. What would you recommend as an alternative to these vitamins? Yeah, like let's go something holistic.
Perfect. So earlier he said, what do I take daily? Liver, bone marrow, sometimes heart and kidney. Why? Because these are whole foods. Now, liver is also considered as nature's multivitamin. It has magnesium, as vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K. It's got so much, right? It's got so much. And then bone marrow's got things like stem cells. It's got white blood cells. It's got CLA. It's got collagen. It's got other peptides, etc. Right? These are whole foods. These are not extracts. So,
do you know what? Like for me, I like what I'm hearing, but I'm also hearing they're not made by halal companies.
So exactly.
Right? So because that's actual animal food.
Exactly. So back home, we had this in our diet, right? It's essentially, if not daily, it's like at least weekly. Right. In the West, we started to distance ourselves from food completely, right? Not just liver and organs, but we started to, it's exactly, right? We start to distance our connection to food, right? It's no longer nutrient rich. It's just about the taste or carbs, really sweet. Is it sweet or is it not, right?
Right, yeah.
So what did I do? I decided to create the Shafat line under Tribal Remedy. So Tribal is my brand, Shafat is the line in which I have halal organ supplements. So now the other thing too you want to pay attention to is, where are you sourcing your halal meats from? So a lot of people now wanted to get into beef liver. I was one of the, alhamdulillah, I don't want to put myself up there, but I was one of the first ones to come up with halal organs in the US, okay? The problem is now a lot of people are doing it, but where, and which I'm not against, but where are they sourcing their meats from? Now, when it comes to meat, it's very important you get high quality meat. So I chose to get my meat from Australia. It's hand slaughtered halal, right? Grass fed, grass finished on wild grass, right? Pesticide free, 100% organic.
Yeah.
Every check in the book. Why? Because when, and you're gonna, I know you know about that hadith, but I want you to tell the people, when an animal is feeding, if it's feeding on things like pesticides, those pesticides go in and store into the fat. Now, of course, animals have fat, right? Any animal, humans as well, have fat. Fat isn't necessarily bad, and excess it is, and especially if it's visceral, meaning if it's surrounding the organ, this is when it gets very dangerous. But toxins are stored into fat. So when you're consuming an animal that obviously has a lot of saturated fats, you want to make sure you're getting it from a clean source so you're not taking in something that has toxins in it.
Right.
Right? Now I need you to tell the people what the hadith is.
I'm going to tell them two hadiths actually. The first one is when we talk about halal. I think we as Muslims have simplified what halal means for us simply to the moment of slaughter, when they just say Allahu Akbar and that one action.
That's a great point.
So halal, when you actually look at the holistic instructions of how we are to sacrifice an animal, first of all, you have to look at, today, I love this part about Islam, that we get very lazy. And then when a non-Muslim person does it, we say, yeah, but they're still kuffar because the Prophet told us this 1400 years ago. And then it begs the question, why didn't we do it? Or why didn't we act up on it, right? So kudos to those who went out and found the truth in the Prophet's teachings by disbelieving in him. Because you just further solidified to us that he's right? But in essence, today we talk about when we want to buy our eggs free range, right? When we're being health conscious. And when I say we, I'm talking as, humans in general, right? These are the things that we look for. Non-GMO, grass-fed, etc., etc. So, yeah, Bismillah. Yeah.
Free range is different than pasture raised. So a lot of people look at free range and they think that's good.
Yeah.
Free range means they get 3 square feet.
And they're out.
And that's it. That's their space. They get 3 square feet.
So now, Islamically free range, the reason why I'm using these terms is because these are actual Islamic terms. So Islamically, what we've been instructed to do is, number one, it is makruh to be in the industry of a slaughterhouse. It is makruh. Because it desensitizes you to what you're doing. Now it's just about the money. Now I'm just killing animals, onto the next one.
Them without quality.
Without any quality. Number one. Number two, the Prophet made it makruh to eat outside of your home. Reason being is, he said, because in your home, you know how your food is prepared, you know what's in it and what's not in it. And so again, showing how important food is in our religion. In the Quran, actually, whenever the word ta'am is mentioned, whenever food is mentioned, is always followed with a direct instruction, and do righteousness. So we're supposed to eat to live a righteous life, but you hit the nail on the head. We eat for taste and feel good factors, right? But bringing it back to the halal point, we've been instructed that number one, the last 3 days of the animal in that life cycle, since I know I intend to, say for example, Eid is coming up and I'm going to sacrifice this animal, the last 3 days, it should be without rope, without fence, should be free.
No stress.
No stress, number one. Number two, there's also the will of God involved, right? So that if it runs away, Allah never intended for this to be killed today. Nothing was forced upon it. No injustice was committed. If it remains, then it's mine, there's an Australian reaver who actually does a beautiful example on this in YouTube, where he actually gets the lamb and he starts reading all the recommendations that the Prophet says, and you see the lamb naturally by itself, it will just face the Qibla and lay down, waiting for the blade, right? So it's completely submitted itself. Khalas, if Allah intended you're gonna have me as a means of doing goodness on earth, I fulfilled my purpose, right? So free range is one, or actually like full on free range.
Pasture raised. So pasture raised means it gets 108 square feet versus the 3 square feet. Exactly.
So it's free.
Exactly.
Number two, it should not be killed in front of another of its own species, especially a relative. Again, stress factors.
Exactly.
Number three, it should not be slaughtered by the owner. So if I own this animal, I shouldn't be the one to slaughter it. I should sell it to someone else. They can eat it. The reason being, the Prophet says, is because this animal, whenever it learned that whenever it sees you, it sees goodness. You're my source of life. You're going to give me food. You're going to give me shelter. So there's a sense of betrayal that you don't feel it, but the animal's feeling it. And again, in that final moments, it died feeling some kind of way, right? So if you hunt, we know that hunting deers, we say never have eye contact because they sense it through sixth sense and they get ready to jump, right? So in that moment, the meat becomes tough because it wasn't in a relaxed state. Yeah. So now we're thinking, well, what about the spirit of this animal in a state? So that's that. So everything we do in the halal is supposed to be in complete consideration of this living thing, that how you are going to end is how you will begin in my energy levels. Because I'm taking your energy to my energy, right?
SubhanAllah, I love that perspective.
Which is why it's just kind of a side topic on pesticide. This is such a beautiful topic. Imam Ali alayhi salam was asked, would he ever drink wine? So he responded, he said, if a man was carrying a container in which there is wine and a drop fell on grass and a sheep came by and ate that grass, I will not eat from 7 generations of that sheep because that grass and the wine is still stored in their fat. It continues. It remains. So now that you're saying
crazy,
toxins are stored in fat.
You're now saying
Science is proving this. But look what Islam knew.
Tell us the
1400 years
pesticide
ago.
on how this exactly happens in pesticides.
No, it's the same exact thing. Essentially, the toxins, whether it's a pesticide or any other toxin, whether it's even heavy metals, they get stored into fat primarily.
Right.
Other places as well, sometimes in the nervous tissue, but into fat. And so,
Some to us because we're consuming them.
exactly, you are literally eating it. So again, back to my point, when you're gonna source your meat, source it from high quality sources. It's very tough to find now in the West. It is, it's very tough because it's money driven. So they want the farm raised. Yeah, subhanAllah. So,
Doc.
yes, sir.
what's one thing you can make to help people
Can
for health?
I start off with the answer for that?
Yeah, go ahead. That's an interesting question. Go ahead, please help me out. I need it.
I have one for you too.
I know,
But I need the how. What do you mean?
I
Tell
really
me.
want to answer that one for him. Okay. And I'm gonna say this as someone who's known him for however long, 17 maybe plus years, right? And all it is really being his best friend. I've consistently seen my brother, because it's a friend does not do justice. Brother barely does justice for because we've been through everything through life. If you know Ahmad, okay, then you know that Tribal Wellness in Shifa is not a brand he created to help the community, okay? If you were to take the brand of Tribal Wellness and Shifa and embody it into a human, you get Ahmad. You know what I mean? You didn't create a brand or a business to profit, right?
No, sorry. It is to help the community. It's not to profit. Yes,
it's not
that's
to
a
profit,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It is he.
That's what he said though. You didn't create it to profit.
Oh,
he didn't
okay,
create
yeah,
it to
exactly.
profit.
Yeah.
He took the embodiment of his lifestyle that he knows is the right way to live, and he created a brand and a product
Around that lifestyle.
around
That's
him,
beautiful.
right?
Wallah.
And that's literally why, from the moment I saw it, I knew the success is going to be nurtured by God, because inshallah, by the good intentions, right? By the health that it brings.
Everything's intentional.
Exactly.
Regardless of whether, it's not even health related. Everything you do, even in the people in this community, you could see just in their face the energy. Is it pure? Is it good intent? Or is it not?
You're right. That's why I asked him the question when he first walked into the shop. I look at him, bro. You just smile.
Oh, you made me so happy with that.
Like, why? When every time I see you, you just have happy and smile.
Allah,
Like,
I
good for
appreciate you guys. Honestly,
It's
same for you
amazing.
guys. Wallah.
When I come and I see a person like that, bro, I just feel better.
Like that's what I'm saying in Iraqi, like your heart just opens.
And to go right back at you, I wanted him to answer this question. When I found out about the podcast, I didn't know. I didn't really know who you were. I talked to you on the phone, then I talked to him on the phone, and what did I tell him?
He said, hey, that's a great guy.
That is a great guy. I'm in. Because I knew the energy, man. His intention is pure.
I meet you at the masjid.
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't really talk.
Yeah.
We sallim. So when I saw you at the dua the other night, and then Hatif was like, that's the doctor we're interviewing. I was like, he's not a doctor. He said, that's a doctor. I was like, man, I didn't know that. Like, Smallah, he looks so young. He said, yeah, he's a good guy. I said, I love him. What did I tell you? What's the first thing about him? I said, every time you see him, you're going to smile. Because he has smile.
That makes me happy.
He's got a
Wallah.
contagious smile and it's always there,
Even
bro.
with
Like, no
him,
matter how-
even with him,
Yeah, thank you.
I swear to God, with
So-
him, the first time, bro, like, why, like, now I just want to talk to you.
right? Now you're like,
I swear to God.
Good people, good energy. That's what we're all
That's why,
about.
listen, I'm gonna tell you guys why, the secret to why we've been so close for so long, because at the center of our relationship is what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
And no matter the relationship, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is at the center, and you fear God, you will never hurt him, you'll have pure intent, and it'll flourish.
If you cannot grow together, you grow apart. So whenever I see people that say, like you said, 17 years, I know you grew together in everything that you do in life.
We've literally been the perfect counterweight in each other's life. Like we're actually opposites. He's natural, he's biology, he studies health. I'm technology, I'm computers, I'm away from that. He comes from the Daya, South Lebanon. I come from the city, South Lebanon.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's everything that's a counterweight to each
Opposites
other.
attract, right?
Exactly the opposite. But in the middle of our counterweight, right? How many people can you actually go to and hear their raw opinion or their raw advice to you, right? And you instantly may think, does this person have the right intention at heart when they're telling me this? Do they not want to see me succeed? He can tell me the worst or the harshest statement that I have to hear, and I know from the core, he's telling me this to uplift me.
Yes.
He's telling me this because I need to hear it.
So I have a guy, it doesn't matter, like he's Lebanese and you Lebanese or he's Iraqi, like you can see the attention from him, which I met a guy, Corey, he's my best friend. He's from Cleveland. When I want to open the shop, I call him twice. When I first open, like I want to decide to open my own barbershop, he came, he said, Tiff, go ahead, bro, you can do it. If you need money, I'll help you. Bro, not even my own people. But this guy, like I just want to, when I go to his family, I'm with his wife, his mom, and his house, literally. And he live in Cleveland.
Is he a God-fearing man?
Yes.
Corey, yeah.
Man.
But he's not Muslim.
No, he doesn't have to be Muslim.
Generally is grounded.
He doesn't have to be Muslim, but
in faith.
is he
As best as I know, he's not Muslim, right?
exactly?
On my wedding, so I got a hotel. I couldn't book. I like to book last minute.
You do everything last minute.
Yeah. So I booked a hotel. I couldn't find. I booked like a nice hotel, and he came on the night, and next day my wedding. He said, "Did you got a hotel?" I told him, "Yeah." "Where you got it?" I told him, "This place." Bro, cancel. I got you 2 nights in MGM,
Oh,
but it's not a room. Was it suite
sweet.
for 2 nights, bro? You don't have to. He said, "No, it's already done." And your name, just cancel the one year. It makes you feel this person is great, and I want to
Man,
keep
love,
continue
wallah.
our relationship, me and him.
As fruity as it sounds, love is so important. Exactly. It literally it unites people. It helps people succeed. It creates bonds that are everlasting. It purifies your intention. I mean, I truly think like this is what Islam teaches. Is like love, peace, right, and happiness. Like
I think Sayyid Baqir said it the same night we met you. It was, I think it's one of the most beautiful things I've heard all this Shahr Ramadan. Just along what you're saying, it's like you have to be at peace. You have to be at peace, you know? If you can't, it's too much noise outside, you know? That's not his exact words, but along that, you know? Like as a Muslim, this is what he was saying. When I say to you, Assalamu alaikum, it means, it's not peace be upon you. Like, because we've always been, لما أقول لك Assalamu alaikum, that means I'm wishing you well. No, he said, that's not what it means. He said, when I say peace be upon you, it means you are safe from me. As Muslims, when we agree, I'm saying to you, you have safety from me. But, and he was basically tying to backbiting. He's like, yeah, so he was like, how can you tell someone that you're safe from me, but as soon as they turn their back to you, you start slandering them and backbiting them.
Doc, I want to ask you that question. How people fix being tired all day and every day? Like, I'm tired, I feel down.
So this is one of those things where I'm going to say a very general answer in which it very much depends on what caused it, right? So some people always want this one remedy to fix everything. They want it. What is it? They always, every day I'm getting a text or a call. Hey doc, hey Ahmad, hey Anani, what can I take for this? Well, Habib, like, can we figure out what's causing that? For example, you're talking about fatigue. Is it a vitamin D deficiency? Is it an iron deficiency? Is it because they're super stressed? Are they not getting enough sleep?
Behind it.
There's a lot of things. So this is why, as a doctor, it's not, okay, here's a symptom, here's the remedy. It's, here's a symptom, what's causing that? And also give them a remedy to help temporarily. Right? So labs can help us it gives us a little window into what's going on inside the body. So we could try to decipher what is going on, investigating into what's happening. So we're essentially detectives as well. But I've actually been hearing a lot of allopathic, MDs and DOs, regular doctors, talk about this. We're losing the art of medicine. Okay? That means we're no longer able to try to investigate and figure out. Now it's just 1 + 2 = 3. What's the symptom? This is the medication I was told that helps. See what happens. Doesn't happen, here's the surgery. The art is gone. Now they think it's a simple equation. It's not.
We want quick fixes.
We want quick fixes. And this is, I've talked about this in the past, this is because of instant gratification.
Yes.
And this comes from the Western society primarily. Through your social media likes, through sexual intercourse, through smoking, through food, through sugar.
This recommends what? Sabr. Islam actually says be patient. Good things come to those who wait.
And never eat or do anything in extravagance. Yes. Now we do everything in extravagance.
So I just want to ask you one thing. What's one thing to keep away from? Like, see me, I got 2 because Shahr Ramadan and I've only got
right?
Yes. Now, okay.
I got one.
So other than these we know it's clear, it's bad. We don't endorse it. We grew up with bad habits and we're trying to quit that stuff.
We're definitely trying to quit them all.
Nicotine is really bad. But aside from this, what are some things?
Added sugars and processed sugars.
Added sugars.
Processed sugars.
Cut it completely out.
Just cut it out. I mean, I'm not saying cut out sugar completely. That means your body requires a small percentage of sugar to survive, to function. You get that from fruits. So what I tell people is limit it to 1 handful of fruits per day. Okay, this is what you should be doing, right? They're very antioxidant rich. They have polyphenols. They have anthocyanins, things that really help with their cardiovascular system. They counter free radicals. They're very important. They have fibers, right, which feed the bacteria in the gut. They're very helpful. Now, a quote I need everybody to understand is this, okay? Everything is a poison, but it's the dose that determines that poison. Yeah. So, for example, if you drink too much water, you could die. Yes. Right? But is water bad for you? Of course not. You need it. So everything is a poison, but the dose determines its poison. And some things are in this much, like even just a little fraction of it, that's a poison. Right. That means stay away from that. Right.
Okay. Didn't that? Oh, sorry.
Also,
Go ahead.
talk about how he told you about 1 + 2 = 3, which is basically your symptoms going to give you a medicine. And this is what the end result is, right? I've my whole life dealt with migraine headaches. Okay. My whole life, I've been prescribed Motrin. I go to doctors, it's normal. They put me through MRIs. At one point, I thought something was wrong with my brain, all this stuff. I visited him in California, okay, when he was studying. And for the week that I'm visiting him, I was getting a headache every other day. And he's looking at me and he's like, what's wrong with you? Why are you getting a headache? And I'm quick to, all right, water, Excedrin, pop it, and I'm good. Let's go on. And he's looking, and he's like, okay, but what's causing your headache? I'm like, I don't know. I just get migraine headaches. He's like, you don't just get migraine headaches. What is causing your headache?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. He was like, electrolytes, dehydration. Okay.
That's one.
That's one. But that was what he noticed from me. He's like, you're not drinking enough water. You're electrolytes, right? When I came back here, every time I got a migraine headache, I stopped taking the Excedrin and I actually would just take electrolytes and some water. And in an hour and a half, it's calming, it's soothing. I don't need to take the nap, 2 or 3 hour nap that I had to take earlier.
Yep. You have more energy levels.
Yeah. It's a real art.
And that's a very basic example. It's but it's so effective for the majority of the people because they don't even know the basics anymore. Yeah. People, they're not taught this when they go to their doctor's office. They're not taught to drink water or eat correct, or what does it even mean to eat correctly?
I feel like, I've noticed, right, in the UK and Canada and Australia, medicine is completely different to America. Mm-hmm. Primarily because the government is paying for it. Well, I mean, the taxes they're paying to the government, but the government still has to write the payment. National Health Service, they call it NHS. In America, it's insurance companies, which means me as a doctor, the more I can, prescribe you, the more I am successful as a doctor.
Exactly.
So we are in a free market. That's the biggest, I think it's a double-edged sword in America, right? The best thing in America is that you have a free market, which means sky's the limit with how much you can make financially. But at the same time, in a free market, it also means that, since everything has a price, it's all about how much you can pay. So when I've got my friends in West Palm Beach, who mashallah, they're, really well-to-do, golf every other day, their doctors very rarely prescribe them medications. It's more about a health check
Lifestyle.
and preventative measures.
May I touch on two things really quickly?
Yeah.
Okay, so two things. One, I need to clarify something. When people hear me speak about the system, some doctors, they get offended, as if I'm talking down on them specifically. But it's never you individual. I mean, not never. It sometimes is. But most of the time, it's not the individual doctor. It is the system.
Correct.
They're not teaching them anything else. Their knowledge is limited to what they're taught, and their curriculum is decided by the system.
You remind me of Imam Jafar Sadiq. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min ilmin la yanfa. It's ilm, it's knowledge. It was taught to me, but it's not benefiting people in the way it ought to be. But your second point?
And the second point is, when you go to the doctor, they don't even have time to teach you these things anymore. I mean, they're not taught it regardless, but even if they did go out of their way, they don't have time because insurance, hey, we're going to pay you for their 15 minutes or 30 minutes and you get this much. And now it's a business. It's not about helping people. So it goes back to the intention. What is your intention as a doctor? You got to figure that out. Yeah.
So this one with me, and a lot of people have that problem.
Yeah.
What's one thing people can do or can take if they can't go to sleep?
If you love the one thing, you love the one remedy for whatever it is. Okay.
Because a lot of people have these issues. Like
So let's I'm gonna try to answer that. For you, do you have that trouble?
yes.
What?
2 days. I don't know why.
Then let me figure out. Are you super stressed or no?
Kinda.
Like,
But not really. I
Not
never
really?
stress. I don't think about whatever happened. Okay.
Last minute guy. خلاص, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, like,
so it's not stress related.
No.
Okay, so then you gotta question now. What time did you go to sleep in the last 3 days or the last week? Because there's something called the circadian rhythm, in which, subhanallah. By the way, this is God's creation. Your cortisol levels skyrocket in the morning when the sun comes out, and your melatonin levels skyrocket at night when the moon comes out and the sun goes down.
Right.
This is part of the nature cycle. So when people tend to drink coffee, for example, caffeine actually increases cortisol levels. So a lot of people in our community decide, oh, let me have caffeine or an energy drink at 7 p.m. Yeah, exactly. Whatever it may be, at 7 p.m., Habibi, your melatonin is trying to go up and your cortisol is trying to go down, but what you just did is skyrocketing your cortisol before you go to sleep. How is it that you can fall asleep if your melatonin is low and your cortisol is high? You literally cannot. It's very tough. Yeah. So you gotta try to figure out what.
Figure out now.
Exactly. You see my point?
You know, right?
You got-
'Cause the night before 2 days ago, I stayed late. You know, Ramadan, we stay
Yeah,
up.
of course.
So I slept at 6 o'clock. I wake up at 1 because Monday is my day off.
Yeah.
When I never wake up at 1. Every day at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Every day.
And then you messed up your circadian rhythm.
And then the day after, bro, I can't sleep.
So to answer you took melatonin yesterday.
Yes.
It helped you.
Yes.
And I'm not against that. I'm really not
I'm
against
against
it.
it. I never taken my life, but I couldn't sleep.
I'm not against it because the only time I recommend melatonin is when there is some sort of jet lag. Because what melatonin does is it helps you fall asleep. It doesn't help you stay asleep.
You're right.
So when you needed something to help you fall asleep, and it wasn't stress related, it wasn't anything, it was just related to the melatonin levels because your circadian rhythm,
Yep.
then in that case, I'm gonna say, okay, you do 3 to 5 milligrams of melatonin one time, maybe 2 nights in a row, you reset your circadian rhythm, then you discontinue.
Yeah.
And khalas.
I'm telling you, doc, I never take medicine. I'm against medicine. Like,
Yeah.
whatever, I'm sick. Even the barbers, every client. As soon they're TV gonna tell you drink water.
Yeah,
Drink water.
Yeah, you should drink water.
That's my medicine, bro.
But there's also things like if you're sick, echinacea tea, elderberry tea, the whole different bunch
I
of
do
herbs.
that too.
Yeah, exactly.
I do it.
Exactly.
So,
Honey, garlic. I mean,
mint, ginger, these I do them.
Natural remedies.
yeah.
Zahra, how do you feel when you give A lecture?
Number one, I've never prepared a lecture in my life.
I mean, I can tell you can talk all night.
No. If you notice, I'm a different person
And I
when
love
I'm on
to
the
hear him.
podium.
Yeah.
His accent.
Yeah.
And
he's got knowledge,
yes,
man. He's got
a lot of knowledge too.
When I'm on the podium, I'm a different person. I feel that I'm a completely different person. For two reasons. Number one, because when I'm there, I'm no longer representing me. I'm representing something much greater than myself. So I have to speak power to that. Number two, I say we grew up in the hood. We come from a religious family. Like my dad is Hausa graduate and everything, But growing up at the age of 7 in a Western life where your parents send you to school thinking you're there learning, but school was where everything bad happens, we kind of very quickly moved away from religious lifestyle, So we're religious at home, but outside we're gangsters. My dad sent me to Karbala 2005. He said, if Imam Hussein doesn't change you, you're not my son anymore. Like, لو ما يغيرك الإمام حسين لو ما أنت ابني. That's it. Like, I'm done with you. And he specifically mentioned this one statement that I'll never forget. He said, I didn't bring you guys to the West to be gangsters. He couldn't say Tupac. He calls him Dumbak. He said, I didn't bring you here to be like Dumbak and these guys, right? He said, I'm going to send you back home so you can see the struggle of the Muslims. Like I brought you here so you can become a doctor and engineer. And that's the hope of many of our parents when they brought us here, so that we can go back home and help our people. So I went to Karbala 2005, and it was like peak violence, sectarian violence was happening at the time. And I got to the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam Allah, and I specifically said, look, I want to do something for you. I remember asking, I said, look, I'm either going to serve tea at your majlis or fix the shoes, because I'm bad, like I'm not a good guy, So when I came back, I got thrown into the podium thing. I never really chose, it kind of got chosen for it, I would say.
Ahmad, I have a question for you.
Go for it.
Do you think natural remedies are the future for medicine?
So I think essentially what's going to happen is we're going to start to understand the therapeutic order. So therapeutic order is essentially showing you, it's a pyramid that shows you when an intervention is needed. So is like pharmaceuticals, are they unnecessary? Absolutely not, they're necessary. Or is emergency medicine necessary? Of course it's necessary. But what we're going to do is we're going to shift, through education, we're going to shift to, rather than using pharmaceuticals as a primary line of defense, we're going to go first, obviously, to lifestyle, which we've talked about. Then we're going to head into the natural modalities. And then if necessary, then you can integrate the pharmaceuticals. So it's not that natural remedies will replace pharmaceuticals completely, but rather it's going to be the point in which it's used. So rather than being used as the only remedy, it's going to be used as the first line after lifestyle changes, then followed by, if necessary, pharmaceuticals. So I don't think we should ever get rid of pharmaceuticals completely, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I got a question for you two. Okay, let's start with Nabil.
Okay.
Nabil, what is your purpose? Marketing, of course, in marketing.
My purpose in marketing is to always use my knowledge to help people grow their business and their brands to the highest level possible, you see. Because not even just from me doing the work, but I feel like when I have conversations with clients or potential clients, I'm never trying to sell. If anything, I sit there and I try to educate so they know what they're looking to get out of our relationship. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I always ask them, what is their goal? And then from there, I educate them on how they reach it. Even if it's not with me, I like to really inform them on how are you supposed to move forward and what are you supposed to look for? Because there's always many times where I feel like people get a bad taste in their mouth from previous marketers, because I see a lot of times marketing is watered down, especially in our community.
I agree. I second that 100%.
You know what I mean? The concept of it is, in today's time, or in our community, I see a big stigma where it's like, if you hold a camera, you're a digital marketer. It's not that. It's much more of a science.
It's beyond that.
It's much
science,
more
exactly.
of really laying out the map you need to lay out and setting really good strategies on how do you touch your client and your potential target market every single time in the best way possible. And how do you spend your budget? People go like, okay, I'm paying this videographer this much, that's my marketing budget. that's not the way it should be.
I mean, it's not just marketing, that's just one aspect
Exactly.
of it.
It's just social media advertisement.
Yeah.
It's just content creation. You know what I mean? Marketing is so much bigger than that, so much broader. There's so many different platforms people use. You know, you have your email platforms, you have your Google, you have your social media, and you have even physical things and tangible things that you're supposed to go after, right? So
Like product placement, I know you've mentioned that before.
exactly. Product placement is so important, you know, and even the stories that you're supposed to tell on your brand. That's what I always ask a client is, who do you want people to view you as?
So I have a question actually, one more follow-up question for you.
Okay.
Is, what you said, what's their story, right? Like, do you have a criteria in which you choose who you want to market for?
Yes.
Do you mind elaborating on that?
So realistically, when I meet with someone, who I look for is, first off, not someone who has picked a brand or a business because they see, oh, there's money in this business, but someone who's really built on the passion of it. And who do they want to be and who do they want to grow as? Like, for example, earlier in the conversation, I said, if you were to take the tribal wellness brand and embody it into a human, you would get you. Why? It's not because you chose a business and said, oh, there's money in this. It's because this was your lifestyle and you knew that you could bring it to the world because it has such value to bring and spread.
So it's people who have a purpose behind what they do.
Exactly.
Which is exactly why I'm asking you too, the exact question.
100%.
What is your purpose?
They have to have a purpose. They have to have a passion behind it. And it's also people that I feel are very pure with what they do. You know what I mean?
Good
it's great intentions. It's back to wanting it for the right reasons.
I mean, karma is real. So if you're promoting something that doesn't have good intention, then that could fall back onto you.
100%.
Yeah, and I know you know this too. Yeah,
that's really how it is. Yeah. So my general purpose is to educate and to really help people grow, and mainly because a lot of the businesses we work with is in our community.
We want our community to grow.
Yeah, right? We want our community to grow, and that's another reason why I look to educate, because I hate seeing people who may have spent a big budget and a big contract on something they had no idea where it's going, you know what I mean? Or allocating that money. It's very important to know the right way it's being spent. And a very simple question that I have potential clients or people that don't even work with me anymore ask is, let me see your portfolio, let me see your proof of concept. If you say you can do this, let me see the data that you have done this, right? So I've never taken on or I've never said I can do this if I don't have a proof of concept to present. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I need to,
videos. He told me I don't know to do that.
You know, that's the thing too. Listen, I love that. Many marketers come into my office, like multiple.
Yeah.
And there is a general trend of, they always have these deliverables. Like, okay, you're my marketer, right? You're not my content creator. That's not what you came in telling me that you are. You're my marketer. Sure. And so I always, thank God I'm very close with Nabil, so he's taught me so much. So I'm aware of what marketing truly is, right? And so when they come in, I've noticed majority of them are always like, we're gonna give you 3 posts, 2 stories, and just content. And I'm like, okay, what about beyond that? And what is your strategy behind the content? Like, are you just trying to do filler posts? And alhamdulillah, again, thank God I have Nabil to guide me, right? Like, this is family. I would love Nabil to do my marketing, but we grew up together. This is my brother. And the one thing I would never want is for business to interfere with our relationship, because I hold that so closely to me.
He told me. I feel like that was that was a very special agreement we had, because let me tell you something. Like, for example, like, let's say a realtor, okay, in the city, or a lawyer, or whoever it may be, some type of malpractice. If they see their close friend go to someone else, right, that leaves a bad taste in their mouth, like, what, they don't want to work with me? You know what I mean? What's that? Because at the end of the day, it could show, like, is your friendship really built on some type of self-interest where, like, you need to make money off them or profit off them, right? Whereas our initial agreement was, you go find your marketer, because we already have a relationship and I would never want business to come anywhere between us, right? You go find your marketer. And if there's ever a question, if there's ever any guidance, if there's ever anything in your mind, I'm here. And I'm here for you.
Exactly.
I got your back.
And alhamdulillah, you know, I think, and I don't know if we mentioned this before, but the biggest thing that keeps us at that, you know, with a general understanding and peace, is having our relationship be God-centric. Right? Everything revolves around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so that's why we know we have good intentions. And so when we agreed to that, it was never out of like ill intent, and we understood that. No. We knew the reason behind it. Sure. And so alhamdulillah, you know, I'm really thankful for that. Okay, now I want to ask you the question. Again, Hatif, what is your purpose?
Make people feel better. That's first. You know, you look good, you feel good. Second, give that person like more confident.
Okay.
Like when you get a haircut and you look good, you can talk better, you can walk better, you can deal with people better. It makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Third,
I could definitely vouch for that because Ahmad knows, like, when I get my haircut, it's like a therapy for me.
Yes.
It's like you're revitalized, you're ready to take on, you're ready to go after it all. You know what I mean? And it's because, like you said, when you look good, you feel good, you're ready to give the first impression. If you have a meeting or something like that off, you feel like that confident person that wants to attack the world.
Absolutely. You know what else I've noticed about you? You can tell me if I'm wrong. You love to spread knowledge. You like acquire all the knowledge you can get, and then you'll tell everybody you can about that knowledge. So I really think, and even with this platform, for example, like I'm here because you want to spread the knowledge on true health.
Yes.
And I've noticed that about you. Can you tell me more? Like,
and the third one, which I love it and make me love being a barber now. Inshallah, God give me good health. Like I don't want to ever quit this.
this is your passion. This is your purpose.
Yes, I love it. Like I love to do it. Third one was connection. Look, I meet these great people over here. All of it from coming here.
That's amazing.
Like barber has the most connection with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you know so much. You hear so
You know the doctor, you know the rapper, you know the drug dealer, you know everybody, and all of them you friend with, and you help so much. Like if you ask me, Tief, do you know anybody? Yes, of course, whatever you need. Anyway, I called you about my friend the other day. He said, bro, I need to take natural thing, and I don't like to take medicine. You know what? I know Dr. Ahmad. Go to him, check him out. So these connections make me feel really good, and I love it.
That's amazing. Well, that's amazing.
Alhamdulillah.
He called me the other week too. Apparently there was someone in his barber chair, and I think he was looking to start like a car scrapyard or something.
Yes.
He called me and was like, yo, Nabi, this guy needs a website here. He like puts me on the phone with him instantly.
You know,
You know what I mean?
so you're bringing people together, and that's a great
That's the purpose from this podcast.
unity, man. That's unity. Wallah, that's what we
'Cause
need
you
more
have-
of is uniting
yes,
people.
You have so much knowledge. He has so much knowledge. You can share it with other people. At least they enjoy it.
Wallah, I love you.
Habibi, I love you, bro.
I love you too, man.
And thank you for coming. You
you
and
for having
Nabil.
us. Seriously.
I really appreciate you guys.
I love to
Thank
be
you so
having us. We
much.
appreciate
And
you.
I need to do one more podcast with you.
Anytime.
I really appreciate
I love
you.
to be back.
Thank you, Habibi.
Habibi, thank you so much.
Thank you again, Nabil. I appreciate you, Habibi. Guys, stay tuned. If you need any question, drop it down. We're gonna make it happen for you. Thank you.